been a most interesting year. Today we're restarting a program. We started it in the spring called Moving Forward. And this is a video webinar series where we try to bring relevant information to our members that'll help you not just every day, but also navigate the challenges we're having here in COVID-19. One of the key industries for us in Anne Arundel County is the aviation and airline industry, with two great companies and employers in the persons of the beings of Southwest and BWI. We wanted to kind of put together a presentation to talk about what is going on with the airline industry, BWI and Southwest. We're starting to get to the other side of the pandemic and the new normal, and we're all going to do a lot of adjusting to do that in our daily lives and with our business. A big part of our daily lives and business for a lot of us is air travel. So with that, we're real happy to have representatives from both Southwest and BWI here today to do this, and we're even more happy that you all can join us. So we're going to make this kind of interactive. We'll start with a presentation from BWI and then Southwest. And if you guys have questions, put them into the chat box. So with that, let me hand it over to Amy Berry, who'll give you a little bit more information and get us started. Amy, take it away.
Thanks, Mark. Thank you all for being here on this lovely October morning. I'm actually here in Dallas, Texas, Southwest headquarters. I'm such a dedicated employee that I actually flew Southwest last night to get down here so I could experience BWI and Southwest Airlines Southwest promise for you guys. So if you have any questions on my personal experience, I'll answer them after. Put them in the chat. So just a little Zoom etiquette reminder, turn your video off and mute your microphone for now. And we're gonna start with Wayne Pennell, who is the COO for BWI Airport. If you have any questions specifically for Wayne and you wanna go ahead, we wanna make it interactive, so go ahead and pop it in the chat and I'll keep checking them and we'll moderate and we'll ask Wayne during it, and then the same for Dave with Southwest. And if anything comes up at the end, we'll open up for some more questions. So for now, I'll turn it over to Wayne at BWI.
Thank you very much, Amy. Again, folks, Wayne Pennell. I'm the Chief Operating Officer for BWI. I have been employed with the state for about 18 years in this position, and I have been in Maryland as a displaced Bostonian for about 24 years. So give it a little bit of time. You will be able to translate what I'm saying. My intent, if you want to move forward, Amy, my intent today is to walk you through the business of BWI, the impacts of COVID, where we were, where we are, and then we're going to take you through some of the challenges that we faced and the actions that we have moved forward with all of the stakeholders at the airport. I, along with, there are approximately 293 employees that report directly to me as state employees. They work for the airport. Of those 292, 283 report into the airport every day. I have been here myself, along with my management team, since the outset of the virus. We work every day in the facility with the passengers and all of our stakeholders. So where we were, you go back to prior to March 6th, I believe that was the date when the governor actually took some actions to start shutting down the businesses here as a result of the COVID onset. Prior to March 6th, we were averaging in 2019 about 27 million passengers a year. As COVID hit us in late February, early March, you can see from this, our passengers dropped significantly. The numbers that we're looking at with this graph are the actual TSA throughput passengers. Those are all outgoing passengers. They do not include all of the connected passengers. Southwest and other air carriers connect quite a percentage of passengers through BWI. In April, as you can see, our business dropped down about 96%. So we're doing 4% of what we used to do. As the months went on, we started to pick back up. We actually gained in May. We started May, June, July, we started picking up. And we're currently running at about 30 to 36% of the traffic we used to do. Next slide, please. And again, if you have any questions, put them in the chat and Amy will interrupt me and I'll try and answer those for you. As bad as that business impact may sound, BWI is doing phenomenal compared to the other Washington area airports. Over the past several months, BWI has actually done the equivalent of National and Dulles together. That is significant and it's important. And as we go on, I'll kind of show you why that may be. And you'll see recent articles in the papers from Jack Porter, the CEO of Washington Airport Authority. The international traffic at Dulles has absolutely destroyed their business. Our international traffic right now is predominantly the Air Mobility Command, along with some Southwest flights. So next slide, please. BWI Marshall, our capacity, now we're not talking passengers, we're talking seats and seat availability. Our capacity as of last month was actually about 49%, so half that of the entire region, which is fabulous for us. And the reason for that as we move forward, Amy? The reason for that is because Southwest really has not pulled down the number of flights as heavily here as other air carriers have done in both National and Dulles and at other airports throughout the country. For instance, prior to COVID, BWI moved anywhere from the 24th to the 22nd busiest airport in the country. As of the last several months, we've been as high as the 11th busiest airport in the country. So here you can see how Southwest capacity has grown from what was 69% up to 76% post-COVID with regards to capacity. Next slide, please. Total operations, this goes back to the capacity. Although our passengers dropped significantly, our total operations haven't suffered as much. And some of this is the result of the CARES Act, the federal funding that was provided to the air carriers in the airport. Many of the air carriers have maintained some of the existing routes that they did not cut as deeply here at BWI as they did at other airports. So as you can see, our July capacity was only down 28%, which is actually fabulous. Now, what that means, unfortunately, for many of the air carriers is that they're flying routes and flights that are nowhere near full. So there's a cost to that. Next slide, please. On a very shining note, our cargo business has taken off. As you can see from this graph, even from April on, we have done phenomenal with our cargo. In April, our cargo was up 10%. It's rebounded to 36% in, 21% in May, 36% in June, and we're running at 29% through July. This is mostly due to the Amazon growth that we've seen. However, both UPS, DHL, and FedEx are also doing wonderful. So next slide. Any questions at all in the business, folks? Hearing or seeing none at the moment, we'll move on to our what we call the runway to recovery. The federal government has actually put out guidance for air carriers and airports on a runway to recovery plan. What you'll see is they've put together a framework, and over the next 10 or so slides, I'll walk you through some of the efforts that not only BWI, but we and all of our stakeholders here at BWI have moved forward with to try and bring traffic back to the airports. We at BWI, we're trying to promote healthy travel in a safe and secure environment. As the onset of COVID came in, we started to discuss internally, what is it that we can do to make our passengers, and just as important, the internal stakeholders feel comfortable when they're here. So we did a pre-departure research survey of about 700 passengers. This is back in May that this took place, and asked them, hey, what is it that would make you feel comfortable? The majority of folks wanted to see cleaning taking place. They wanted to see disinfecting actions taking place. They wanted to see folks wearing face masks. They wanted us to try and enforce the social distancing. What we have done since then, as you'll see through this presentation, is we've taken a look holistically at the journey of the traveler from when they first decide to book their air travel, through arriving at the airport, whether that's via shuttle or in our parking facilities. Then we've brought them entering the terminal, interfacing with our folks, our employees, our ambassadors, our customer service folks, TSA security, air carriers, the concessions, and then the boarding of the aircraft. Next slide, please. Well, that's different. I don't remember that effect. So we initiated what we called our safety awareness campaign. We took and we put out to the community, we began communicating to the community that face masks are mandatory. The only folks we allow in the terminal are traveling passengers, ticketed passengers, or employees. Now, there are always some one-offs to that because you do have unaccompanied minors. We need to allow the passengers or their guardians to come in with them and accompany the youngsters out, or individuals who need assistance. So we put out signage, both electronic and hard signage out throughout the terminal, enforcing the mandatory face mask issues. We've had webinars, Q&As with our stakeholders and with our outside, the passengers wanting to come in, such as this group that we're doing now, sponsored by the Anne Arundel County Chamber of Commerce. We've updated our websites so that people, as they're looking to make travel plans, they see what the rules are to come to the airport. We've put down thousands, as you will see shortly, thousands of social distance placards all over the airport, in elevators, on the floors, and check-in lines. In addition, we offer free masks. FEMA has provided to the airport 1.3 million free face masks that we give out to our stakeholders and or passengers if they don't have one. Next slide. The Safe to Fly campaign, carrying it on. This is a secondary campaign that we're currently working on in regards to this initiative, which is to educate folks as we move forward in bringing people back. As the traffic picks up, we have a whole campaign that will go out through social media impacts, press conferences with the media, billboards and bus signage, and the geofencing to allow to message out to our customers via all of the mobile devices. Our marketing and air service development team is currently actively working this campaign. And as the traffic comes back, hopefully in the next month and a half, this campaign will be rolled out. Next slide. Thank you, Amy. Shuttle bus transportation. This goes back to the passengers coming in. So as passengers come in, we've shut down some of our outer lots, the long-term lots, and what we've done is we've lowered the rates of our hourly garage. That's the terminal garage, along with our daily garage, and we focused that busing effort onto those two garages. So we've increased the frequency of the buses. We've discontinued running them to the long-term lots, which is saving us some expenses on that. But then we've increased the frequency at the daily garage, and we've hired on ambassadors. These are our customer service folks, most of them are in red vests, to enforce the social distancing. So we have more buses running at a higher frequency, and we have folks there to try and enforce the social distancing so that there's less folks on the buses themselves. Next slide, please. Once you come into the terminal, you'll start noticing some of the changes that we've made throughout the terminal. We've moved our international ambassadors. They were there to help all the international customers with in-processing. What we've done to keep those folks employed is we've moved them onto our information desks. In addition, you can see we've put these plexiglass guards up throughout all of our information desks, and shortly I'll show you a number of other areas where they're up. So the airport ambassadors are now staged in the information desks, and that's removed our pathfinders. Our pathfinders were generally retired folks who volunteer for the airport to work these desks. Well, the majority of those folks are at high risk because of their age. So what we are doing, many of them are asking us, hey, we know what we're getting into. We want to volunteer to provide customer service to your passengers. How can we do it? So we're beginning actually next month, October 5th, or this month, October 5th, we're going to do a virtual information desk where we'll have monitors at some of our desks, and the pathfinders will be operating from remote locations. So passengers can walk up to the desk, interface with the individual through that monitor, and actually get help, whatever help it may be that they need. So this will help the pathfinders, the folks who want to help our customers, and it will help our customers. We'll still maintain it at some of these locations, the live individuals, so that they're still working and actively employed. Next slide, Amy. Throughout the terminal, you'll see that we and the air carriers have added hand sanitizers. I know the airport itself, we've added over 30 additional hand sanitizers throughout the terminal, both on the secure and non-secure portions. You'll see them at the passenger screen and checkpoints, and the majority of air carriers have hand sanitizers at their check-in ticket counters also. Moving on. Social distancing throughout the terminal. These are some of the placards that you'll see. We, the airport, have provided TSA with over 1,000 placards, and we continue to refresh them as they get worn. But TSA has over 1,000 of these placards throughout their screening checkpoints. We've put these at all common use areas. In addition, we've installed plexiglass protection for both the passengers and the employees throughout the majority of the ticket counters in the airport. Moving on. Some examples of the social distancing placards. Next. And I apologize, folks. I'm just trying to give you a visual so that you can see some of the actions. TSA is moving to a touchless screening processes to where you can actually simply scan your documents and they will check to verify, but they don't have to touch any of the documents. In addition, they have the plexiglass. You're fine right there. As you can see, they have the plexiglass in front of all of their TDOs, their officers, as they interface with the customers. We're currently working with an outside vendor on this crowd vision social distancing. So this is, we have Bluetooth technology that will actually scan the checkpoints, the lines, and it will show you as passengers how we are doing with social distancing. And we're working right now on a pilot to try and put this up on some of our electronic monitoring so that folks could actually see if they're far enough apart or not. And it's tough to enforce social distancing. A lot of it is individuals taking it upon themselves and their own responsibility. And we've seen with most folks over the past several months that they do adhere and respect the effort of social distancing. Next slide, please. Again, some examples of the plexiglass at the concessions. Once you're through security screening. Next slide, please. In terminal disinfectant, so BWI, I'm proud to say, we were out in front of the majority of airports on some of our disinfecting processes. Once the COVID took place, we took a hard look with our janitorial service provider and said, look at what is it that we need to do to ensure that we use an EPA-approved products. That was the first step. Then we addressed our cleaning in a holistic manner. So we looked at our daily cleaning routines, our deep cleaning routines, what we need to do for enhanced touch point cleaning. That is all of the high touch points, doors, handles, elevator, escalator buttons, the rails to both the stairs and all of the moving walkways. So we focus on all of these touch points to include the TSA bins. And I know that question will come up. We clean those on an hourly basis. As soon as COVID set in, we hired a company to come out and perform electrostatic cleaning. Next slide, please. So we use a Clorox 360 machine along with an approved disinfectant that will kill the COVID virus and many other viruses. So on March 20th, we actually started spraying down 2.2 million square feet of terminal space on a nightly basis. So we currently do this. Then we focus also on all of our high volume areas, my security office, our badging office, our police dispatch center, which is a 24/7 dispatch center, our air traffic control tower, my airport operations cab, all of in our police division offices. These are all high volume offices, and the individuals that stage or staff those offices on a 24/7 basis are all emergency responders, along with our fire department. So we hit all of these areas on a daily basis. As you can see from this slide, this moves on with how we've moved through the cleaning process and what we've done in the areas we focus on. Boarding areas, we spray down all of the benches, all of the chairs, the arms to the chairs, touch screen displays, ATM machines. So we focus on these areas every single night, and our janitorial staff focuses on wiping down the touch points on a daily basis. Every single shift, multiple times, you'll see these areas being hit. Next slide, please. Just an example of how the chimes, and the chimes is a community service provider that we use for our janitorial staff. Next slide, please. So any questions, please, folks, anything that you have for me. Our focus is to protect the traveling public and just as important, our employees and all of the stakeholders here at BWI. I'm proud to say within our staff, my direct staff, we have not had one single COVID case since the onset of the COVID virus in early March. I see we may have one question.
Steve Palmer with Ever Evolving says, you've clearly done a phenomenal job adjusting to this crisis that nobody could have seen coming. I'm curious as to what changes either the airport or your business model do you see surviving beyond this COVID crisis? And can you share any lessons learned from being forced into taking this external challenge? Thank you, Steve.
Well, Steve, that's a pretty tough question, actually. Lessons learned. You know, we reacted quickly. I will say that at the beginning, I personally and many of our managers did not foresee this lasting as long as it has. Maybe we did not expect the impact that it was going to have. The social distancing is a challenge for everyone because a lot of these actions that are necessary right now, Steve, as we see anywhere right now throughout the country, a lot of the actions are individual responsibility. You cannot expect the police or the employees to, they have to discuss the responsibility with the passengers, but it's hard to enforce that. We have seen folks, the longer this has gone on, take a little more individual responsibility. The business aspect, it's not sustainable. I'm not, from an airport side, we cannot continue operating at this level and expect airports to be financially stable or air carriers to be financially stable. I think unless we get back to 66, 75% of traffic, I don't see how the business is sustainable. I think that I've taken pride, Steve, in the cleanliness of this airport over the years. Can we do better? Sure. Maybe we have learned some things with regards to touch point cleaning that we could do differently. We're looking at different technologies. I think the private sector was rolling out many of these technologies prior to COVID, and this has just forced them to roll them out quicker. I hope that answers your question, Steve. If not, please hit me with a little more.
I have a quick question. Well, first a comment. Thank you for that, Wayne. And it also, it sounds like you've done a tremendous job in looking and analyzing the situation and becoming more of an expert on cleaning and disinfecting. But also kudos for reaching out and using some local companies to help with the new cleaning protocols and things you're doing. So your costs have gone up during this, and while your revenues have been pummeled. So how many, have you been able to use a lot of local companies to help with the cleaning?
We've tried. We're using a company called Top Dog Services for the nightly disinfecting. That's the electrostatic service. They are a Maryland-based company. We try to work with all of our contractors to use Maryland companies if possible, but we do have to still follow the state's procurement laws. So we cannot, just because we're in an emergency does not mean we can stop doing that. We did reach out to several Maryland breweries on the onset of the COVID-19 virus to provide us with hand sanitization, and that was done through MEMA. I cannot take credit for that from BWI. I have to give MEMA their credit for all of that. But there are several women-owned breweries in this area that converted their business early on, and they started producing hand sanitizers. So when that was really tough to get, we actually reached out to them, and they provided BWI with approximately 75 gallons of hand sanitizer. So that was another example of a Maryland-based. And thank you, Mark, for also mentioning. You're absolutely right. Our revenues have dropped significantly. Our expenses have not, folks. Our expenses have dropped minimally as a result of this, the onset of this virus. We have found some cost savings, as I mentioned, in reducing shuttle bus services. But our expenses have dropped minimally. So that's a problem right now. Anything else?
Steve just said, thank you. That was great. Thanks for your honesty.
Any other questions that you have, folks, please feel free to put them in the chat box and we can answer them after. Without hearing any other questions, I would like to turn this over to our very, very successful partner in I'm proud to say that I was involved early on when Southwest first came to the airport. I was actually working in the private sector, and I remember the day, and it was a wonderful day as Southwest entered BWI years ago. And they have been truly a wonderful partner with this airport and a partner with this community for over 25 years, I believe now. So I'd like to introduce Dave Harvey. Dave is the Vice President of Business for Southwest Airlines. Dave?
Excellent. Thank you, Wayne, and greatly appreciate your leadership and partnership, just everything you're doing to keep the travelers safe and distanced and well. And just like you showed in the graphs, we've been great partners kind of leading out of this recovery. Southwest absolutely loves the Baltimore Washington Airport, and it's for the better part of the last 2 decades, it's been one of our top 5 overall daily operations. And we have no plans of slowing down. Just a quick thank you to Mark and Amy for the opportunity, and for everyone joining us here with the Chamber. Just hope that you and your loved ones, your families are well, your businesses. Kind of a PSA announcement. I'm saying this more to myself than anyone. We just have to keep being vigilant together, washing hands, keeping our distance, wearing our masks, and we will overcome this virus together and get on the other side of this. So real quickly, just hopefully all of you are familiar with Southwest Airlines. I'll give a quick 60-second history lesson and then kind of jump into the promise. What have we been doing, during the pandemic? Next year is actually our 50th anniversary as a company. Next June, it's quite remarkable, and it really started with Herb Kelleher and some of our founders back in the mid '60s. They were attorneys, and they were drinking their wild turkey in downtown San Antonio and trying to figure out how do you get more of these Texans off the roadways and into the skies. And it really was, hey, Herb, you're crazy, let's do it. And then we had that first flight in June of 1971. And it was really all about low costs and the best service that we can provide. And sometimes you think about the best service, you think about lounges and first class. Well, there's just kind of basic human service, put a smile on your face, genuinely care about people that you can kind of ingrain in your work, in your team. And that really extends to the service and the hospitality you provide the customers. So it's not rocket science, but that model, and it really kind of grew over the last 50 years, where pre-COVID, almost 1 in 4 people flying in America every day flew Southwest, almost 25% of the U.S. market share. And you can see where we're almost 70% there in great markets like Baltimore, Washington. And we saw it. So I'm in my 22nd year at Southwest, saw it after 9/11, saw it after the Great Recession about 10 years ago. Our customer-friendly policies and our low fares, people start voting with their wallet. They want their money to go farther, and they want great, high quality service. So we are leaning into this. It's still very, very choppy. And a lot of those graphs that you saw from Wayne, that's exactly what we're experiencing. We're still burning $17 million a day. That is not sustainable, but we're doing things like keeping, middle seats open because we believe in the distancing that we need to do at the airports and on board our aircraft. So we did, like many of your businesses, we had a pandemic business continuity plan on the shelf. You test every couple of years. I think all of us would agree those were woefully kind of underthought or underinvested for the world that we find ourselves into today. So we had to quickly pivot. Airlines early on were deemed essential service. So for our employees, the first thing we had to do is figure out what do we need to do to put in place to protect and secure our employees so that they can then create a safe environment for all of our travelers. So you see on the left-hand side, a lot of leading institutions and federal agencies. I think a lot of those are probably pretty familiar with you. CDC, clearly it's almost daily. We're trying to understand what the new CDC guidance. I would call out one strategic partnership here in North Texas, UT Southwestern Medical Center. They have a leading epidemiology practice, and some of their medical professionals. We've been working hand in glove with them as we've been coming up with this multi-layered approach that we call the Southwest Promise on the wellness and safety and distancing practices, cleanliness practices we put into the marketplace. But that really came to the Southwest Promise that we launched in April, early May. If you go to the next slide, Amy, and it very much is a multi-layered approach. If you think about the customer journey, and you heard Wayne talk about curbside to curbside, and where all those touch points are for the airline, there's about 85 tangible steps in a traveler journey. We literally have had to make significant adjustments, tweaks to half of those 85 steps to make sure that we've got the right distancing and health protocol in place. Here are some of the big ticket items. So literally every aircraft, that first one, the electrostatic disinfectant spray, the underpinning is an antimicrobial spray that's EPA and FDA approved that actually has a 90-day application that creates a seal on every aircraft surface. So think your seats, your tray table, the bins, the lav, even in the cockpit. And that antimicrobial spray, literally its mission, I don't fully comprehend the science of this, but its mission is to seek and destroy the germs and the viruses, and then all the other kind of cleaning, sanitation, wipe spray that layers on top of that. But these aircraft are literally getting cleaned 6 to 7 hours every night before they start the next morning for active duty, the entire fleet. I mean, we're talking, we have about 750 aircraft, and we've got, right now 600 to 650 actually flying. So going through that regimen. We also implemented turn cleaning. So when that plane lands and everyone deplanes, we've got a ground crew that comes through and hits all those critical services, lavatories, the tray table, all the key latches. Think about seatbelt latches, those kind of high touch areas to make sure that when the next group boards, that it's ready to go. We've done so much with kind of our announcements and encouraging, and you see it, if you've had a chance to fly during the pandemic, everyone is bringing wipes and sanitation, and we support that, and we announce and encourage folks to do that, and then even do kind of a trash sweep and come through and kind of pick up all that even before you push from the gate. I'm going to skip the HEPA air filter for a second because we've got it on the next slide. A lot of things with the physical distancing. You saw Wayne with the plexiglass. So every single touch point for a traveler to one of our employees, we installed plexiglass just to have that healthy barrier. We did things with our boarding process. So if you're familiar with boarding Southwest, we've got the stanchions and we have 30 folks queued up on both sides. That is now just a group of 10 that we queue up on one side. So there's the 6 feet of distancing, plenty of breathing room, and our gate agents are doing a beautiful job getting into the jet bridge and boarding in a very comfortable manner. So the distancing to go along with the cleanliness. We also were very, very strict with our face mask. For a while there, we were allowing medical exemptions. We had to nip it in the bud. People were literally going online for $20 and printing an exemption. It's not about, the masks aren't about the safety of that individual. It's about the safety of everyone else flying around them. So we had to be very stringent. So if anyone over the age of 2 is required to wear a mask to board and through the entire flight, our flight attendants are doing a great job, almost treating it like seatbelts as a safety precaution and managing through that. They do a wonderful job diffusing situations. You see it in the media, there are folks that are using the mask as a platform to make a statement, and that's not going to fly on Southwest. And if you're not going to wear a mask, you're not flying Southwest. Our CEO, Gary Kelly, actually kind of tongue-in-cheek says masks are like pants. You've got to wear pants when you come on board a Southwest plane, so you got to wear a mask to go along with it. And then another big distancing measure is just we've continued to roll this. We kind of monitor CDC guidelines, what our customers are telling us, and just what's the right thing to do in this pandemic. So we are currently out through November 30th. So the next 60 days, if you're planning travel, we literally are capping the number of seats that we will sell and create a boarding pass for at 65%, effectively keeping all those middle seats open so that of course, a family or loved ones that you've been sheltering with or quarantining with, you can occupy the full row. But by limiting that last third, you are not going to be sitting shoulder to shoulder with a stranger on board our aircraft. So that's something we continue to monitor. And as we kind of get a little bit closer here to the end of November, we'll see what that next step is. If you flip to the next slide, Amy, I want to spend the HEPA air filter is an important ingredient in this multi-layered approach. And this is really a part of the engineering of the aircraft. But think about the HEPA filter. That stands for high efficiency particulate filter. It is, it's medical grade, hospital grade, clean room, so kind of high-end filtration that is literally getting 99.97% of all those airborne particulates out of the cabin. And then on top of that, two other things. So just the way the aircraft is engineered, it cycles fresh oxygen through the cabin from outside the cabin every 2 to 3 minutes. And then the airflow, think about it, top to bottom. So it's coming out of the top of the aircraft, pushing down and expelling that air through the base of the aircraft. So it's arguably a cleaner environment just from an airflow and a filtration than anything you're going to experience in your kind of normal day-to-day life, going into a grocery store, restaurant, hardware store, what have you. So we're actually partnering with both Harvard and Stanford right now to actually put some math and science around the cleanliness of the cockpit experience vis-a-vis some of these other things. I can't stress that enough. Amy, if you flip to the next one, I just in my mind, we've hit on a lot of these. I cannot say enough about the Southwest Airlines warriors, our employees. They have done a fabulous job taking care of themselves and then taking care of our customers and kind of leading through this pandemic. They have made us so proud. We see it. We use something called NPS, Net Promoter Scores, where we actually talk to our customers, are able to give us the feedback. And we already pre-COVID, we were kind of best in class benchmark for customer service, not just airlines. We led all airlines, but also kind of rivaled top customer service brands. And we are seeing all-time high scores in that Net Promoter. And a lot of it is just kudos to our frontline team. Amy, if you flip to the next slide, I want to quickly get to our commitment to BWI, to Baltimore, Washington, and we can open it up for more questions for Wayne and I. It is amazing. Very humble beginnings. You just heard Wayne talk about that in 1993, just to a couple markets. And from there, the relationship has really blossomed. It was kind of a bastion, kind of an outpost when we started Baltimore. It was literally our first offering on the East Coast. We didn't fly to Florida yet. We didn't fly to the Northeast. We had Baltimore, Washington, and we've grown into 60% of the share, and almost 5,000 Southwest employees call that region home. These are high-paying jobs. These are folks, like Wayne said, they're committed to the community and committed to the success of everything that the community and region is doing. So we couldn't be more thrilled. If you flip to the next slide, the markets that matter. So whether you kind of put your leisure hat on here, your business hat on, you've got your airline service development folks that work with Wayne to represent the airport. We've got our network planners and our schedule planners at Southwest. They are in constant dialogue about what are the markets that matter to you. And we've got to step up and deliver that day in and day out. We've got to be flexible in this pandemic. You're going to see it on the next slide. But this is just giving you a sampling. These are literally the top 20 markets for you in 2019. And I love seeing that Southwest heart almost across the entire board there, if not number one, number two. So we continue to be good listeners, and we're going to continue to get you the flights, the frequencies, and the seats that matter. If you flip to the next slide there, Amy, it just gives you a sense, that kind of starburst, this route network. And then on the right-hand side, that table to the markets that matter, over 40 weekday departures to Florida when you want to get away and get down for some R&R, but then also a lot of the key business routes, the Bostons, the Nashvilles, the Denvers, high frequency, giving you a lot of flexibility. Nobody's as flexible as Southwest with our no bag fees, no change fees, and just making it, your funds are flexible. They're yours when you're there to use them. So excited about that. We're continuing to bring back. If you flip to the next slide, I believe there's one more slide in here. Actually, it's not there, but I'll just kind of talk to it. and you heard Wayne say this, BWI is really leading out of recovery. All airlines had to kind of right size capacity to demand. And there were a lot of other markets that were hit harder, even for Southwest. But Baltimore has kind of leaned into, Southwest has leaned into BWI and returned our service faster to give you all those options you saw on that route network. So we've announced a few new markets. We haven't, we just recently announced both Miami. So we've got a great offering to Fort Lauderdale, but we're going to be starting Miami, Florida on the West Coast. We've got Palm Springs. Here in a couple months, we're our first Colorado mountain town, Steamboat Springs. But we've got some, and so we haven't announced specifically to Miami on the East Coast. We haven't announced the actual flight schedule or fares. That's going to be coming up here very, very shortly in about a week or 10 days. But we're going to continue to find the routes and the markets that matter and keep plugging those in to Baltimore. So with that, I'll pause and see what questions all of you have.
I had one. The in regards to the HEPA, is that how you say it, filters, is that something new that you guys have had, or is that something that you've always used?
You know, it's actually something that we've always used, but absolutely partnering with Boeing and kind of the manufacturer guidance to make sure that those are tip-top shape, cleaned, and new ones are put in so that we are staying on top of this and keeping that filtration where it needs to be.
I don't see any questions right now, but I'll back up both what Wayne and Dave just said. Traveling yesterday was a breeze. I felt super safe. I mean, through the airport process, I've got kids with me that traveled. There was hand sanitizer everywhere. There was no touching or exchanging the driver's license. It was all very clean, very sterile. We got Chick-fil-A. All the tables were spaced out, and then the board. Everything was just great. I felt more. And then I actually had seen this presentation before flying, so reading all this, I was like, okay, we're already landed here. We're like, okay, well, let's take advantage of these cheap flights. Where can we go to next? So we felt 100% safe and confident in traveling. We would do it again, absolutely. So thank you all for just stepping up and making us feel safe. And I've already shared with my friends. They're like, you got on a plane? And I'm like, yes, but listen to this. And they're like, oh, okay, well, maybe let me look up some flights.
Let me also just kudos to Southwest broadly. Prior to the pandemic and even now, y'all have had a stellar reputation for customer service. And as the official airline of the Anne Arundel Chamber of Commerce, you guys, whenever I've flown, it's always been a great experience. The individuals that you hire do put the customer first, and it shows. And so that's important. And I think that will serve you well moving forward. And just as a kind of a management geek kind of a thing, you talked about the net promotions score. Was that something where you reach out to customers to try and get their feedback? And did you do any of that as you started to kind of get back into flying during the new normal?
Yes, great question. So we've been using the Net Promoter Score, I want to say probably about 15 years, so quite some time. There's a couple different ways you can do it. You can do it on a trip-by-trip basis, but you can also do kind of a broader questionnaire around just the overall brand. So somebody that may not have flown Southwest in the last 3 months, but it is important to kind of understand that brand halo. Just how do you feel about that product or that service? But it's very, very simple. It is essentially ask the surveyor on a scale of 1 to 10, where are you on that scale, with a 10 being the highest, on promoting that product or service to those around you, friends, relatives, coworkers, versus, hey, this was not a good experience. I would be a detractor versus a promoter. So it's a very, very simple metric. A lot of different industries track it. All the airlines use it to kind of see where we're at versus each other. But you got the USAAs and the Nordstroms and all these high end are what you would classify as kind of best in class service organizations that you're trying to benchmark yourself against. And then specifically, Mark, to your question, there's about 50% of the flying population, almost gets into Amy's point, that there is nothing we can do right now with a low fare, or we can talk about cleanliness and distancing and what we're doing, but that is not going to get them comfortable and confident enough. Now, we are seeing the numbers move, and you're kind of chipping away at the masses, but for Southwest or for the whole industry to get well, you've got to get a much larger of that percentage back in the skies. And right now, you've got to think it's got to be massive kind of therapeutics that there's confidence in, or the vaccine that's widely distributed until in masses those people kind of come back. But you can survey them, Mark, and we can see that, hey, they haven't flown post-COVID. How are they feeling about that experience? And they're not confident. They just haven't experienced the airport and aircraft, like everything we've talked about. But then the beauty of this is after they actually travel, just like what you heard from Amy, the scores are off the chart, and we're getting really, really good word of mouth, telling friends and family and coworkers, hey, this was great. You know, besides getting used to the mask and new announcements and new kind of boarding procedure, I felt as safe as I've ever felt in the airport or on board a Southwest aircraft. So that is slowly working its way out, and you can see it in the scores as well.
And I think that's really smart, because what business and people don't react well to is uncertainty. And clearly the COVID-19 situation has created that. So they're looking for that certainty. So with the test scores and the testimonials from folks who have actually flown, that creates some more certainty. And we are moving forward with the vaccine and the therapeutics. It will take time, and we all need to realize that. But companies like Southwest and organizations like BWI, you hit the right word, chipping away. We got to just keep at it.
We had one question come in separately. So you guys have, obviously, both of you, as we talked about, the industry's been hit hard by the pandemic, and yet Southwest is still above and doing better than their competitors, as is BWI and other U.S. airports. What do you guys contribute to that?
I can jump in real quick. It actually ties back to that first question about what have you learned? And this was a principle from day one from Herb as well, is you have to prepare in the good times to do well in the hard times. And we are just dogged on low cost and being efficient so that we can offer the lowest fares and that world-class hospitality service. And there are businesses and competitors that get in over their skis, if you will, so that when the hard times come, they can't stabilize themselves. So we're very fortunate. We've got the best balance sheet. We've got the best credit rating. We've got 15 billion cash on hand. We've got the best employees. And ultimately, that's going to allow us to weather the storm and then take advantage of opportunities coming out of recovery.
Cool. Oh, hold on. A new message just came in. All I can add is that we're all accustomed to seeing the airport parking lots loaded with travelers and vehicles parked. Took my father to hitch a flight to Maine a month ago, and was a shock to see no one parking. Yes, that was very bizarre to get to BWI and see it was a complete ghost town. I know this will get turned around, but will there be those who do not survive? I smell mergers in the not so distant future. Any comments on?
Today is going to be a fascinating day. So the payroll support that you heard Wayne talk about actually expired last night.
Yep.
There is bipartisan support to extend that 6 months, but the deal is not done. So the two sides are aligned that the airlines need to be part of the new bill. but the overall budget, there's a lot of elements of this new payroll support. So, I mean, American came out last night. There's a chance that 40,000 airline employees are going to get laid off, get their notices today. And American said, you know, and American already had an early out that roughly 20,000 employees took their early out a couple months ago. And they announced last night that they're going to start the process of letting go 19,000 more employees today. So it gives you a sense of the seriousness. This is 9/11 and Great Recession times 10 all put together, the impact to the industry. And there, you know, there's a lot of avenues to get loans and to get cash just with interest rates low, either through the government or the open market. So I don't think people are going to run out of cash, but at some point you got to start paying back all that debt. So it's going to be an interesting couple of years to see all the airlines navigate that.
And I think part of that political discussion in Washington, and it was a key word was said here, essential industry, essential services. The airlines move passengers, but also cargo, and that's vital to the economy in every corner of the United States, and the volume of people that y'all employ here in the Anne Arundel County area. So it is incumbent, I would think, that our friends in Washington should hopefully know that and be able to get a deal done. Just real quick, Dave, on the cargo side, has that been affected for you all, or are you aware of how that's performed?
Yeah, it's actually up quite strongly. So, you know, the benefit of keeping that robust network out there, even though passenger demand is up, some of the passenger demand is down. The cargo and freight has been very robust. You know, Wayne talked about the Amazons and DHLs and FedEx. You know, there's a lot of opportunity to pick up some of that lift as well. You know, we're not moving as many bags, so there's more space
Right.
for freight. So that's been one of the brighter avenues here during COVID.
All right. Well, I don't know if there's some more questions or thoughts anyone want to share. I am looking forward to my next Southwest flight. I just got to come up with a destination, but that will happen in time as we slowly move forward. Amy had a great experience so far, so that is great. We've got you have a happy customer. So anything else from Southwest or from Wayne at BWI?
No, thank you for the opportunity to allow us to share some of our story. As stated, I have a work team here that is at the airport every day. They're working hard to keep people safe, and we're very proud of that. But thanks for the opportunity. We appreciate everyone attending.
Okay. We recorded this, so we'll have this on our YouTube channel in the next couple days. If you want someone else in your organization to take a look at it, you know, please share it, because I think it's important information to know how extensively the activities at BWI to make it safe, and what Southwest is doing to ensure a secure and safe flight. So with that, thank you everyone for spending some time, and thank you to Dave and Wayne, and we will see you at the next moving forward.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Take
Bye-bye.
care, everyone.